The specialty of war has advanced dramatically with the coming of contemporary advances. One thing about war, notwithstanding, hasn't changed. To win a conflict, it's as yet crucial to keep the genuine strength of your powers and the degree of your munitions stockpile stowed away from your rival. The main military insider facts are simply unveiled to the chosen handful who can be trusted to do the mission. Therefore, the U.S. government can uncover total data about its devices and strategies for the public guard to individuals it is committed to serve. So there should be probably a few occurrences when weapons of war have been created and sent without the information on the American people, or the remainder of the world. However, consider the possibility that the rival of the military mechanical complex, having obtained inappropriate impact, turned into its own kin. What phenomenal mysteries of active, mental, organic, and fiery fighting may then be covered up well beneath the outside of public information? Understand more. 10 bizarre World War II weapons that were actually built. Probably a few parts of the presence and operational boundaries of the accompanying 10 weapons have advanced into general mindfulness. However, their advancement makes one wonder. What different apparatuses of death and obliteration may be hiding in the shadows, completely darkened from the public eye? 10 directed energy weapons. The Greek mathematician Archimedes may have left a mark on the world more than 2,000 years prior as the main individual to at any point utilize a coordinated energy weapon. As per a baffling legend, during the Roman intrusion of Syracuse, Archimedes quickly built a hexagonal mirror when the Roman chief of naval operations Marcellus moved his boats out of the scope of bowshot. Archimedes was obviously ready to catch the energy of the sun and reflect it onto the boats, setting them on fire and making them sink inside minutes. 1. MIT understudies had the option to reproduce this impact in 2005, yet noticed that their mirror was just prepared to do adequately consuming a fixed objective. In spite of the fact that logical information has progressed an extraordinary arrangement since the times of Archimedes, the basic hypothetical standards of coordinated energy weapon, DO, innovation continue as before. A DO causes harm from a distance by terminating a strongly thought light emission toward an objective. Various sorts of DOs shoot various kinds of energy. However, the most promoted type of coordinated energy weapon being used today is the high-energy laser, HEL. These DOs are very much like the lasers found in sci-fi films. They fire a soundless light emission, imperceptible at specific frequencies, that can burn an objective from many miles away. HELs have been created by project workers like Lockheed Martin for use in rocket protection and space war. However, some accept that these weapons may have been planned in view of significantly more evil purposes. During the Thomas Fire that desolated California in December 2017, numerous observers and specialists noted property harm that apparently opposed each assumption of how an out-of-control fire ought to act. In spite of the fact that out-of-control fires use foliage to spread, whole squares of houses caught fire while the encompassing trees stayed immaculate. In spite of the fact that no authority clarification of this bizarre marvel is impending, various observers across California recorded video of light emissions descending from the sky as the burst spread across the state. Given the way that HELs are usually mounted on the button cones of planes, some have inferred that the commotion unleashed by the Thomas Fire was helped with coordinated energy weaponry. 9 long-range acoustic devices. USA. Sound cannon blasts curfew-defiant protesters in Ferguson. A new type of crowd control weapon came to the fore during the Ferguson, Missouri, protests of 2014. As an active demonstration of the newfound capabilities of an increasingly militarized American police state, countermeasures employed by the Ferguson Police Department to quell civil unrest included the use of LRAD sound cannons. Capable of projecting voice commands over a distance of 5.5 miles, 9 kilometers, a long-range acoustic device, LRAD, inflicts grievous bodily pain upon anyone within 330 feet, 100 meters, of its sound path. LRAD manufacturers are careful to call their products devices, rather than weapons, for public relations reasons, but anyone who has endured the effects of an LRAD is well aware of the difference between the truth and the spin. Just ask the US diplomats stationed in Cuba who recently started losing their hearing. Soon after the détente between the United States and Cuba that transpired in 2015, diplomats deployed to the newly reopened U.S. Embassy on this Caribbean island nation started reporting a sudden and permanent loss of hearing. 2. U.S. investigators concluded that the diplomats had been hit with an advanced and unnamed acoustic device that doesn't make any audible sound but causes irreparable damage to the ears and brain of anyone in its path. This incident was considered so serious that the United States expelled 2 Cuban diplomats from their embassy in Washington. However, the exact nature of this LRAD-like device and the identity of the agents responsible for its use on American officials are still unknown. If a sonic weapon was indeed used on U.S. diplomats in Cuba, this would be an unprecedented incident in the history of international relations. 8. Low-frequency microwave mind control. Microwaves suspected in attacks on U.S. diplomats in Cuba and China. The apparent sonic attacks on the U.S. Embassy in Cuba rekindled decades-old fears about a different kind of secret weapon. In 1965, at the height of the Cold War, the Pentagon discovered that the Soviets were blasting the U.S. Embassy in Moscow with extremely low-frequency, ELF, microwave radiation. While far too weak to cook anything, it was determined that the so-called Soviet signal carried the possibility of affecting the health or altering the behavior of the embassy staff. Instead of doing anything to stop it, the Pentagon decided to study the potential effects of the signal and attempt to mimic them back home. DARPA, then a freshly minted branch of the Department of Defense, subsequently founded an initiative called Project Pandora and began researching the effects of ELF microwave radiation on primate subjects. Though the results were inconclusive, project leader Richard Cesaro remained convinced until Pandora's disbanding in 1969 that ELF radiation posed a serious threat to the national security of the United States. The Pentagon never figured out what the Soviets were up to at the American embassy and opted to solve the situation by wrapping the embassy in a building's equivalent of a tinfoil hat. An aluminum screen was erected to surround the perimeter of the complex. Though DARPA may have closed the case on ELF radiation in 1969, studies have since indicated that low-frequency microwave and radio waves may indeed have a deleterious effect on the human body. It's even been demonstrated that the signals emitted and received from cell phones have an effect on the functioning of the mind that frequently shows itself in the disruption of natural sleep cycles. Today's world is absolutely saturated by invisible signals that keep us connected and informed. But how much do we truly know about this all-pervasive radiation and how it might be affecting our health and even our thoughts? 3. 7 heart attack guns. In the wake of the Watergate outrage of the mid-1970s, Democratic Senator Frank Church drove a council devoted to making quick work of any activities executed by the CIA that may have disregarded the contract of this clandestine insight office. It was accepted that the CIA had gathered excessive one-sided power under the affection of the Cold War, and the Church Committee was amassed to uncover this accursed plot to the American public. Despite the fact that set of experiences shows us that the endeavors of the Church Committee to check the extremist enthusiasm of the CIA were everything except incapable over the long haul, a couple of intriguing discoveries were revealed throughout this 1975 examination. One such revelation was the alleged coronary failure gun, an altered gun that was fit for conveying an almost imperceptible however totally deadly portion of shellfish poison into the body of a far-off target. 4. The darts discharged by this soundless weapon would hypothetically leave a pinprick no bigger than a mosquito chomp and disintegrate immediately into the tissues of the body subsequent to conveying a payload so noxious that the objective would be nearly ensured to have a respiratory failure inside minutes. It's obscure whether the coronary episode gun was at any point utilized. However, as far as we might be aware, it could in any case effectively be being used today. 6. Magneto-hydrodynamic explosive munitions. In Arthur C. Clarke's book Earthlight, the amazing sci-fi writer of the 20th century considers an advanced weapon that utilizes electromagnetism to move a stream of liquid metal miles into space, skewering and annihilating an assaulting ship. This sort of protective layer puncturing weapon isn't completely incredible. Since World War II, different arms producers have provided soldiers with devices of war called self-manufacturing penetrators, SFPs. Utilizing a synthetic blast and a metal liner, SFPs push themselves at a protected vehicle and afterward change their shape to enter the objective. Nonetheless, regular SFPs are wasteful and difficult to utilize, offering ascend to the interest for a more powerful shield entrance weapon. DARPA has built up a particular shot to fit this specialty called the Magneto-Hydrodynamic Explosive Munition, MAHEM. Utilizing electromagnetism to shape and direct a supported fly of liquid metal at a heavily clad objective, MAHEM is significantly more versatile than an ordinary SFP and intently takes after the anecdotal weapon included in Earthlight. Past these essential subtleties, very little is thought about this clandestine military task. Nonetheless, China's Nanjing University of Science and Technology has clearly figured out MAHEM for its own purposes. 5. Likewise, with numerous different parts of the shadowy battle for worldwide matchless quality as of now being pursued between the superpowers of the East and West, the full subtleties encompassing the turn of events and sending of this fearsome weapon may never completely channel their way into the public mindfulness. 5. Biological weaponry. Somewhere in the range of 1949 and 1969, the United States military tried organic weapons on its own kin without their insight or assent. One such investigation happened in 1950 when a U.S. Navy transport splashed billions of small microorganisms into the environment over San Francisco, causing a huge upsurge in ailment and conceivably executing one occupant. Another occurred in the tram framework under New York City in 1966 when specialists dropped lights loaded up with microscopic organisms onto the tracks to test how far the movement of a train would convey these possibly lethal microbes. Then again, different analyses consisted of overwhelming whole urban areas in a haze of zinc-cadmium sulfide under the affection of giving a distraction to conceal the populace in case of the episode of atomic conflict. The military discloses to us that this was improved to shield us from unfamiliar foes. However, many keep thinking about whether the advantages of such foolish experimentation really exceed the expenses. Nonetheless, hazardous microorganisms delivered into the air may be the least of the organic dangers to which the American public have been uncovered by their administration. In 2016, DNI Chief James Clapper communicated his interests that quality-altering innovation may turn into a weapon of mass obliteration on the off chance that it fell into some unacceptable hands. The study of quality altering has multiplied all through the cutting-edge world, apparently with practically zero idea given to the conceivably grievous implications of dabbling around with the hereditary construction of the biosphere. While normally happening microorganisms are adequately awful, hereditary designing has offered an ascend to the likely presence of furtively created organic weapons that could clear out whole public populaces essentially overnight. In any case, microorganisms given superpowers by insane lab rats may really present to a lesser extent a threat than different sorts of hereditarily adjusted living beings, GMOs, that have been let free among accidental people. In 2013, a gathering of around 300 researchers officially dismissed the reason that there is a logical agreement on the security of GMOs for human utilization. This assertion drove various eatery and staple chains like Chipotle and Trader Joe's to out and out prohibit GMOs from their kitchens and shelves. 6. However, agribusiness organizations keep on modifying the hereditary code of imperative harvests like corn and soybeans under the security of a multitude of logical distributions and media sources that consistently guarantee their crowds that GMOs represent no danger to the human body or to the biosphere. Agribusiness monsters like Monsanto are vigorously sponsored by the United States government. In the event that GMOs genuinely are hindering human well-being, the ceaseless spread of these unnatural living beings could be filling in as a clandestine continuation of the public authority's dangerous propensity for presenting its kin to organic weapons. 4. Subliminal messaging. It's been grounded that subconscious informing is utilized broadly in publicizing. This sort of showcasing generally abuses the baser desires of the general population to impact them to purchase an item or administration. Be that as it may, Imagine a scenario where similar standards utilized in subconscious publicizing are likewise being utilized by the United States Knowledge Local Area for the motivations behind undercover work or even psyche control. A previously secret CIA report named "The Operational Potential of Subliminal Perception" portrays in exact detail the endorsed philosophy for gaming the standards of subconscious insight to convince somebody to accomplish something that they as a rule wouldn't do. 7. While the creator of the archive eventually reasons that the operational adequacy of subconscious discernment is very restricted, the CIA is broadly known for its skill for working inside the injuries of outrageous cutoff points and as yet achieving its secret destinations with no trouble at all. 3. Flying aircraft carriers. Gremlins. Airborne launch and recovery of unmanned aerial systems. In the last part of the 1920s, the United States Navy started investigating the strategic capability of airborne planes carrying warships. 2 dirigible-style aircrafts were developed, the USS Akron and the USS Macon, the two of which conveyed a team of 60 men and were fit for sending and recuperating Sparrow-sold military aircraft in flight. Notwithstanding, both Navy flying planes carrying warships met heartbreaking closures and their remaining parts currently rest at the lower part of the sea. As of late, nonetheless, tales have surfaced of DARPA's arrangements to resume this part of American history and start another endeavor to create airborne plane-carrying warships for military use. This time, these proposed sentinels of the skies would convey drones rather than monitored warplanes. Called the Demons program, this venturesome DARPA activity would comprise of altered C-130 air transports stacked with covert robots equipped for infiltrating foe guards undetected. 8. Given DARPA's standing for out of nowhere declaring the arranging phases of effectively finished ventures when their cover may be blown, it's sensible to keep thinking about whether there may as of now be devils flying over our heads. In the event that the whimsical declaration of assumed mystery space program insiders like Corey Goode is to be accepted, there may even be Avengers-style Air Force heli-transporters watching the skies currently, delivered imperceptible by cutting-edge shrouding innovation. 2. Project Thor. Rods from God weapon system gets another look, conceivably eclipsing the Moab as the most deadly non-atomic weapon in the United States arms stockpile. Project Thor is an innovation planned by Jerry Purnell during the 1950s that would annihilate foes with jolts from above. Conversationally named Poles from God, this sort of kinetic energy penetrator, KEP, would hypothetically comprise a couple of satellites. One fills in as a focusing center, and the other is furnished with 6-meter-long, 20-feet, tungsten poles that would be dropped on an objective from the circle. Equipped for infiltrating many feet into the Earth's hull, these thunderclaps from Thor would create harm identical to an atomic impact without the fallout. 9. Despite the fact that the expense of conveying such bars into space is viewed as restrictive, resuming the Project Thor activity was genuinely considered as of late as the George W. Hedge Organization. With $21 trillion as far as anyone knows appropriated without approval by the behind the entryways of HARP Alaska. Are the intrigues genuine? Hugo Chavez carried worldwide consideration regarding the HARP office in Alaska when he blamed the United States Air Force for utilizing this high-recurrence transmitter exhibit to trigger the 2010 Haiti tremor. Until this point, projecting slanders on this United States Air Force research station was a blunder submitted by just the looniest of tin-foil hatters. Speculations about the hazier side of HARP were apparently settled when the Air Force declared that this ionospheric research complex would be shutting its entryways in 2014. Yet, the theory was fueled once again into fire when HARP was returned in 2017 by the University of Alaska Fairbanks, UAF. Honestly, it likely was certainly not a decent decision from a PR point of view with respect to UAF to pick the falsely initiated indication of a climate wonder as their first test. At the point when HAARP's new overseers declared their arrangements to make a rendition of the aurora borealis that was imperceptible to the unaided eye in the skies over Alaska, many accepted this as affirmation of this dubious examination station's climate controlling capacities. Albeit the HARP program has been consistently blamed for controlling the climate and broadcasting mind control signals. None of these cases have been obviously shown to be either evident or bogus up until this point.